when you have someone who lived the experience himself, who's talking about the horrors of war, who's got the documentary evidence, the videotape, the photographs, where is the corporate media? They're busy beating the drums for war. And these young people, their stories don't fit in. I mean,
why do you think that is, though?
Well, let me talk about the lead-up to the invasion. The group Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, in that 2-week period around Colin Powell giving that push for war, the former Secretary of State at the United Nations, in February of 2003, when it's so important, when people are making up their minds, when, as Noam Chomsky says, the media is manufacturing consent for war, FAIR did a study of the 4 major nightly newscasts, NBC Nightly News, CBS Evening News, ABC World News Tonight, and the PBS NewsHour with Jim Lehrer. There were 393 interviews done around war in 2 weeks. Guess how many were with anti-war leaders? Of almost 400 interviews.
It's got to be somewhere between 0 and 3.
You got it, 3. Let's not underestimate with 0. 3
Okay.
of almost 400. That is no longer a mainstream media. That is an extremist media beating the drums for war. Why?
And remember, at the time, there was this huge uprising of anti-war protests and marches, etc. It's not like it didn't exist.
Right. Millions of people rock the world for peace. Remember February 15, 2003?
Yeah.
I mean, millions just in the United States, not to mention all over the world. You know what that merits in the United States in the media? Then you get a picture. Then you get a photograph in the front page of the paper if you're lucky. Or you'll see the rivers of people, video. But what about interviewing one of them? Because let's face it, most people in America don't identify with masses of people protesting. What about bringing one of them into a corporate network studio and say, tell me, why would you take off on a weekend when you could be with your family, when you could be relaxing? In the dead of winter, it was freezing cold that February 15th. And do this because people cared.
So, Amy, why? Why are they not covering it? I mean, because if I'm, and I could have been someone who went up the ranks of being a reporter, et cetera, on television, and been an editor or a reporter. And if you asked me, hey, should we cover this? I'd say, obviously, that's an interesting story. So why are they letting the interesting stories go?
Well, I think the titles of our books pretty much tell that story. I write the books with my brother David. We've done 3. The first one was in 2004, so we were dealing with that beginning of the war. And the book was called The Exception to the Rulers, because that's what the media should be, the exception to the rulers. And I think we answer that question with this simple term, the access of evil, right? Not the access of evil. Reporters trade truth for access. If they can come back to their newsroom and say, I got a quote from Vice President Cheney, or, oh, my God, from the President, or I got a quote from the Secretary of State, you're making your way up the corporate ladder. But if you're asking seriously critical questions, as should have been asked at that time, I mean, none other than Scott McClellan himself, the White House press spokesperson, he's not only saying that Bush lied, and that's what the media is focusing on, he's also saying, why weren't you guys in the corporate media harder on me, on Scott McClellan? This is a part of the story that has to be told. That is astounding.
See, now, Amy, I've had top-notch reporters in Washington tell me off the record that you've got it exactly right. They say the issue is access, and if you get frozen out by the Bush administration, which they did all the time, that you were in a lot of trouble and your job was in jeopardy. And if your job's in jeopardy, they got to feed their kids, right? And so it scares them to their core.
We occupy a very special position as journalists, and it's not enough to say that, you know, you got to play it safe. There is a reason why our profession, journalism, is the only one explicitly protected by the U.S. Constitution. We are supposed to be the check and balance on power. We are supposed to be holding those in government accountable. So we have no excuse. I also think that the embedding process has brought the media to an all-time low. When you have reporters embedded in the front lines of troops, who do you think they are going to be favorable towards? I mean, of course, these young soldiers are being put in harm's way. And if you're embedded with them, you too are being put in harm's way, and they are protecting you. What are you going to say about them, except only being favorable towards the whole situation? I'm not saying you should be critical of them, but it is very difficult at that point to be critical of the whole situation. We need a media that's independent.
Now, we need to go one step further, though. And we're talking to Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! You can check out the program at democracynow.org. Also, the author of Standing Up to the Madness, along with David Goodman. Amy, so we have the situation with the reporters being threatened with access, right? That their access is going to get cut off.
Right.
Now, so I understand the reporters' motivations at that point. But we had Sam Donaldson on the show a while back, and he said it used to be different. And what used to happen is if Reagan or Clinton, White House, complained about the questions I asked them, Roone Arledge would give me a raise. Every time they complained, I'd get a raise. And so that gives you the incentive to be tough on the administration and not to take any crap from them. Now we have the opposite incentive. So it isn't the reporters as much as it is their editors and the people in charge of them saying, hey, go along, get the access, don't challenge them.
Well,
what happened there to make that change?
I think it actually goes way back. Last night at the National Conference for Media Reform, at the preliminary session, I was signing books, and a guy came up to me who just left CBS. And he's been there for a long time. Don't forget that Edward R. Murrow was forced out of CBS. And this CBS employee last night said that Lawrence Tish talked about it being his greatest embarrassment and regret. He was the one who forced him out. Because he would say that after Edward R. Murrow would come on, they would get the calls from those in power, from, let's say, Procter & Gamble or what other company was, sponsoring them, saying, we want this guy reined in. He was taking on the establishment at that time. Think about Walter Cronkite and how remarkable he was during the Vietnam War when he came out against it. It was over. I mean, once he had come out against the war, once he sized up, weighed the evidence. But this kind of pressure has been going on for a long time. I think particularly in the corporate media, it is very difficult. But even in public radio and television, we see a softening. We are not supposed to be a part of the establishment. Not only embedded in the front lines of troops, we're not supposed to be embedded in the establishment. Curious decision a country can take, it's to go to war. We need a media that challenges those who make those decisions and don't go to war themselves.
Amy, I could talk to you for hours, but I got to ask you one last question before the next guest comes in. If Obama becomes president, do you think this dynamic changes in some ways, in the sense that instead of the Republicans, say, being able to control access, it is a Democratic president that controls access?
You raise a very important point. I can't say. I mean, you look at 1996, 97, it was President Clinton and Vice President Gore that signed off on the Telecommunications Act that has led to the consolidation of the media. The war authorization bill could not have happened if it weren't for Democrats. The leaders of the Democratic Party, remember John Kerry, John Edwards, Hillary Clinton, they all voted for the war. You had Senator Byrd of West Virginia, who's now hospitalized, has pneumonia, the oldest senator that has cast more votes than any senator in history, over 18,000, standing on the floor of the Senate with his shaking hand, holding the Constitution, saying, wait! And he led what he called the honor roll, what he says is his proudest vote, 23 senators saying no to war.